Hi, my name is Jeffrey Mark Westlock, and I'm here to tell you about my plan to fix Canada. I'm a Canadian living in Canada, live in Calgary. I've worked on a way to fix the country, as far how the political structure of the country, the monetary system, and the financial system, as well as to eliminate all debt across the country for everyone. I figured this out. I'm making this video because I want to get a meeting with the premiers, all 13 of the provinces and territories, in order to get this process started. I'm going to do this video in one take, and then upload. I'm going to upload to YouTube and to X and see which one lasts longer and which one goes further. But I'm not going to edit. I'm just going to have my notes, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do this. Now, first of all, as I said, I'm not going to detail the plan in detail, because to do the plan there requires a bit of secrecy between me and the premiers. But to get there, to get that meeting, I need to at least create a bit of a buzz to get people to get noticed, hopefully in a positive way, so I can get this done. This is not for me. This is for the country. Service to country. Service to my fellow Canadians. And also to other peoples in other countries, because what I want to do here, we can do elsewhere. Now, let me be very, very clear. I believe in democracy, responsible government, and I believe in old school free market capitalism. That's what I believe in. I don't believe in any sort of communism or socialism or any of that other kind of stuff. I believe in small government. I'm getting ahead. I believe in small government due to small need. You as a person have the right to have control over yourself, and you need to have freedoms to be able to do what you want to do, as long as you're not impacting somebody else's freedoms. But you should be able to be self-sufficient, self-contained, and be able to take care of your own stuff. So you need less from government. We don't need school lunch programs. We need people and families to have enough money so they can give their kids lunches for school. That's the solution, not school lunch programs. Anyways. So as I said, I have a problem. I have a solution to fix the country, monetary system, the banking system, the political structure. And if we do this, we will improve the country economically, societally, and of course will vastly improve the lives of the average Canadian, which is the entire point of the exercise. Because if you want to have an economy, you need average people, the vast majority of people doing well, not just surviving, but surviving, but thriving. That is an economy. If you have that, then you have an economy, and everyone does well. Yay! If you don't have that, people don't have money, they won't spend, and you won't have an economy. It's real simple. It's as simple as that. You can't treat the average person as a piñata and expect that money is going to come out all the time. Sooner or later, there's nothing left. We're getting to that point. Hence why I'm doing this. Which gets me to my next point. As I said, I need to have a meeting with the premiers. It needs to be closed door, and I'd be quite happy with it to be attached to the next premiers, First Minister's meeting. Again, not for me, but to get this process started. I have a report. I've been trying to get a hold of the premiers, get interest, but I've been ignored completely. I've been told that if I sent anything to any of them, their staff would read it and give a review, or give a summary to the premier, and I said, no, that's not good enough. So here we are. I need your help. And in certain helping, we can help all the Canadians. Again, not for me, for the country, for the people. Well, who am I? I'm a guy who, this is my house, my RV trailer. I lived in this trailer, and I park across the street from where I work. Done so for 10 years. I did this so I could get myself out of debt. And I've done that. I got myself out of debt. I built up some savings. Not enough so I'm getting close, but I can't quite get a place. What I want is I want land. I want a homestead. My dreams are many, varied, and scalable. I'd be okay with a cabin, on some, on a river or a lake, and to be, again, self-sufficient, and be able to have enough space and some cabins so I can actually, have friends and family visiting. But that's what I'm moving toward. And with everything that's been going on, particularly 2020 and so forth, and the way things are going, that led to me to prepping. So I have a fair amount of tools and books and supplies. And the one thing everyone should get is, imagine for a moment that the internet is now no more for any number of 1,000 reasons. What's the information that you think you would need to know? So, but you can't Google it anymore, which I call it the when you need to know it but can't Google it archives. So books, physical books. You want to do ebooks, great. I prefer physical books because they'll go on the shelf. But all this prepping led me to want to start a town so I could actually help other people. Not a commune, not a cult place, but just sort of a town. So, okay, well, how can I help the average person in this town not just survive but thrive? Kind of have, here's your place and here's your, at a decent price, and you can actually make a living, which then led me to think of, well, what about the rest of the country? Because I'm not the type of guy who's going to sit there and I'm going to be in my little bunker with my freeze-dried whatever and all my food and supplies and tools and just giggling and laughing as desperate people are banging on the door of my bunker, begging to come in. It's just not me. I've always wanted to be, for better, for worse, for smart, for stupid, I want to be the bastion of civilization in the midst of the Mad Max universe world. Which led me to think, well, how can I save the country? How can I fix things? And it started me to think, how can I fix the country? How can I make things better for everyone? And started to thinking about how to then fix and change what you're not supposed to even think is possible to fix and change. To understand where we need to understand the problem, the large, and how we got to this point, because my point is to move forward from here. Move us together, all Canadians, for all of us to be better. That's my point. So, start with a basic historical overview of Canada, more from the point of view of our political structure and how we got here. Back in the day, after Columbus arrived, again, I'm not going to get into that end of the argument, should or shouldn't have or whatever, but just this is what happened. Expeditions were then sent out because there was this new world here. There's this some place here, and reports were that there's lots of vast resources available. There's timber and fish and all sorts of animals, fur, and all sorts of things that the mother countries could use. And so they said, we want that. So they sent out ships, men with ships, to say, go out there and get us some of that. And so they need to have settlements established. So they built towns. And these towns were called colonies. And a colony was there for economic reasons, to gather resources for the mother country. And there's primarily the four of them: England, France, the Netherlands, and Spain and Portugal. So 5 doing this. And so all sorts of colonies were set up, but they were not democratic. They're not supposed to be democratic. They were, one person was put in charge, and they answered to the crown directly, because they're out there for one reason: to get these resources and send them back. That's it. The leader of that colony was called a governor, because they're there to govern and rule that particular colony. Again, it was an outpost of the mother country, and it was subservient to the crown and owned by the crown, which is that fancy hat. We'll get to that in a bit. Time rolled on. More colonies were established and these colonies started to work together, and multiple countries did this, and the colonies flourished, but nothing changed. We had towns, we had roads, and we had larger, more complex kind of structure, but politically nothing changed. We had the governor, and of each of these colonies, that was it. They're still in charge. It's not democracy. We had pseudo-democracy, and we're still in that now. We're functionally democratic, but we're not actually democratic. What do I mean by that? We function as a democracy, but ultimately we're not, because the people are not at the top of the totem pole. The top of the power structure within the country. We're at the bottom. The crown is still at the top. And then under the crown is the governor general, and then the lieutenant governors, and then the premiers, prime minister, and then the assorted elected bodies. But all of them answer to the governor general. If the governor general doesn't like it, or lieutenant governor doesn't like a law, it's not happening, because you need royal assent for it to happen. Now, typically, they never balk. Typically, they never make waves because they just want a nice, cushy life. But politically, power-wise, they have the power. Always have. Things changed, sort of, but not really. In 1867, John A. Macdonald, again, I'm not going to debate the merits or lack thereof, whatever, about him. This is what he did. He led a group that wanted to change things. Okay, merge the colonies together. There's a number, so they could do more things, better things, and this is where Canada was said to have been born, but is the Dominion of Canada. What is a Dominion? Dominion is still a colony, just a larger and more complex colonial structure. So instead of each of the colonies of Upper Canada, Ontario, Lower Canada, Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, they formed together in 1867 to form this Dominion of Canada. So therefore, each of these colonies were then considered a province, and they had a lieutenant governor in charge of them, and the Canada overall had the governor general. Again, harking back to modifying the colonial structure before. The British North America Act was establishing the Dominion of Canada. It received royal assent. As the Queen Victoria said, yep. March 29th, 1867. And then it came into effect July 1st, 1867. All it did was merge those 5 colonies into a larger, more complex colony called a Dominion. That's it. Crown was still in charge. Governor generals were still appointed by the Crown, and the lieutenant governors were appointed by the Governor General. Again, still a colony, still owned by, still run by, belonging to the Crown. Now, we say, well, hang on a second, Jeff. We don't call ourselves a Dominion anymore because we're not. We're things have changed. We dropped that. We're our own country. We gained our independence. We get all this wonderful stuff. No, nothing changed. In 1951, we dropped the Dominion title because we were considered to be an equal member of the Commonwealth, but nothing legally changed. We are still structured. We still are a colony. We still are a Dominion, owned by the Crown. They have complete power. Get to that in a moment. Then life rolls forward, and Trudeau Sr., Pierre Elliott Trudeau, he brought home, in 1982, brought home the Constitution. Well, clearly, this is obviously when we gained our independence, right? We're now a country, you see? So, no. We gained the right to change our own Constitution in 1982. Finally, we could make changes to our own Constitution. Okay, but those changes still need to have royal assent, which means the Crown still needs to approve it. So little niggling things like saying, oh yeah, we want to dump you. The Crown can say, yeah, not happening. Or we want to do something that, limit your power. No. Again, Crown still has total power. That fancy hat, and whoever has the right to wear it. Known as the sovereign. Get to that in a moment. Again, the Crown remained the head of state. Nothing changed. We did not gain our independence. We are still a Dominion. We are still owned by the Crown. Nothing ever changed. We're still in that place. Still a Dominion. So what is our political structure right now? How does it work? How does it function? Well, as I said, we are still functionally and politically structured as a colony, but yet we're functionally democratic, but we're not really. The Crown is still the head of state. The Crown appoints a Governor General to rule Canada overall on advice by the Prime Minister, but still, it could be anyone the Crown wants. Anyone. You can send in someone from England or what. Whoever. It's their choice, not ours. They have all the power. Now, well, you say, hey, hang on a second. We have elections, and so we're democratic, and so, we vote and all that. Well, hang on a second. The Prime Minister is only the Prime Minister because they lead the largest bloc and have been asked / appointed by the Governor General to form government. That's it. The Governor General can appoint someone else. And there's been times where government lost the election and they were still appointed to govern anyways. Find a coalition, do some way get it happening, but it's on the appointment of the Governor General. It's not automatic. It's not the will of the people necessarily. It's the Governor General. Now, typically they do what the will of the people. They follow the election, but again, they are not bound to. There's a massive difference, and it's that difference, which means we are not a democracy. We are functioning as a democracy, but we're an absolute monarchy, functioning as a democracy, which is unacceptable in my terms. Unacceptable. So what happens is that, well, we have our Parliament and the Senate, don't get me started, is full of appointed people. It's supposed to be the chamber of sober second thought. And so now, instead of, if you wanted to do that, then just appoint judges and learned men and women and so forth up there. Great, the best and brightest minds. No, we have bagmen, the ones who are party loyalists who are sent up there to still vote, as they're supposed to for their party, but there's no accountability. So the Senate really, in my opinion, does nothing. But again, it's there. So we have democracy in the lower house. Okay, House of Commons. All right. Well, what happens? Well, in order to run for Parliament, if you want to run you can run as an independent. Great. Okay. But you see, we don't vote for the Prime Minister. All we vote for is for your person in your riding, either provincially or federally. At municipal level, you vote for your councillor and you vote for the mayor. That's it. Other than that, you're voting for your representative. And if someone wants to run under the banner of a party, a brand, you need to have the party leader themselves sign your papers, your nomination papers. Otherwise, you can't run. Party leaders use that as a club to make darn sure, it's a family show, that you will vote how they vote, how they want. You will do what they say, when they say, how they say it. You will literally jump through flaming hoops in order to so that the next time you can run as that party leader. And everyone in Parliament, what they really want to do is stick it out for at least 8 years, so they get that full pension for ungodly amounts of money for the rest of your life. I'm sorry, it should be considered contract employment. Your contract was not renewed. Thank you. Hope you saved. If you don't think it's fair, talk to anyone who has done contract employment, and that's the nature of it. So now we have these blocks called these parties having to vote exactly the same way. I mean, the member of Parliament for Medicine Hat, for example, would have to vote to nuke Medicine Hat if the party wanted to nuke Medicine Hat. It's stupid. They have no choice. Otherwise, they won't get that. They won't get that right. They won't get their paper signed. We'll be able to run again. So they can and will betray their constituents because they have to. Because if they don't, they won't be allowed to run again. Of course, you probably won't get reelected. But party official can spin anything, I suppose. But the point is that you have no choice as a member, as an individual member, which means they no longer are representatives of the people to Parliament or provincial legislature, respectively, but they're representatives of the party to the people. That's not really democratic. Gets even worse is that the government gets their way all the time because our politicians are so used to the government can be majority government. What does that mean? It means that they have enough votes to pass any legislation they want, period, done. They don't have to talk to the other parties. They don't have to make deals back and forth. So you have the government saying, we're going to do this thing. And then you have the opposition screaming and yelling and shouting and thumping desks and tossing papers around. This is an absolute travesty. This is absolutely horrible. You can't do this. This is not the will of the Canadian people, blah, blah, blah. Theater. It's all just theater. Because the government's going to get their way, and the opposition has to look like they're doing something, so they shout and make a big noise. Now, some governments make the opposition's job really easy. by passing horrible legislation. I don't need to point out who, but I'm sure you can think of a few examples. And oddly enough, it'll be on both sides of the aisle, as it were. The red party, the blue party, and the orange party. Because there's no talking, debating about issues. It's just the government standing up, we're going to do this. Opposition says, no, that's stupid. Government says, we're going to do it anyways. And they do it anyways. Doesn't really work, doesn't really function. Even worse, more insanely, is we only have representation by population, which on the one hand, okay, sounds good, but the country's not evenly populated. All the wealth and the resources is in the West, and the population is in the St. Lawrence lowlands, meaning pretty much Toronto, like that strip from the Great Lakes all the way out. That's where most of the population is. And so you end up having that group. All you have to do is win Toronto. If you can win Toronto, you will form government. Because you pick up a few seats here and there elsewhere, and you will form government. That is unacceptable. And the country is tearing itself apart because they know it. They realize it. They understand that their government is not serving their interests, their needs, particularly this current one. I'll let you fill in the blanks as to why. So it comes down to the fact that we don't have a democratic. We function kind of as a democracy, but we don't really have a democracy. And all the power still is in the hands of the Crown. The Governor General, Lieutenant Governors, and the Crown. The Crown can exert their power whenever they want, because it's their country, their dominion. Because we're still structured like those colonies from way back when. Parliament passes laws, but nothing becomes law until it gets royal assent. What's that mean? It's just a little, formality. Not necessarily, because it is the Governor General who, there's two ways. Either through the written form or through a formal ceremony held in the Senate. The written form the bill has to pass both Parliament, as in the House of Commons, and the Senate, for it to be allowed to be given a royal assent. Okay. But my research, when it mentioned the formal ceremony, literally all they do is the Governor General will sit there in their fancy chair and look at the legislation and nod, and it's given royal assent. But it didn't mention whether that bill had to have passed Parliament, like House of Commons and the Senate, for it to be law. So could they make any law they want at any time without Parliament? I don't know. Disturbing, considering it's not really written in stone, but it's all irrelevant because of the dude above it. As I said, the Prime Minister... Yeah. It gets worse because the Prime Ministers have concentrated all power unto themselves through successive Prime Ministers. It started out, originally he was the Industry Minister and Prime Minister, kind of named as, captain of a hockey team. All right, fine. We're all on this team, but okay, if someone needs to talk to one of, you're the designated guy that they'll talk to. Okay, fine. Well, now it's like, imagine the captain of the hockey team is now the coach, owner, everything. All roads of power goes back to the captain of the hockey team. That makes sense? No. But that's the way it is. Only the Governor General or the Crown can remove them, and neither one will do any of those things because they just like their power. As I said, yeah, we are not a country. We are not an independent country. We're a colony, a dominion, a fancy, complex colony, which is owned wholly and completely by the Crown. The Crown, that fancy hat, and whoever has the right to wear it. They can make any laws they want throughout the country. We, the people, are not at the top of the power structure or the bottom. We're not a democracy. And so, the whole system needs to be changed. So changing a dictator in a red shirt for a dictator in a blue shirt won't fix things. The system needs to change so we don't have dictators. We do not have responsible government. We do not have democracy, and we need to change it so that the people are the ultimate power in our country. But right now, we're at the bottom of the totem pole in the Crown's dominion. Well, I keep talking about crown, but what does that mean, and what exactly power do they have, and where did they get it? Okay, well, this harkens back to medieval ages and kings and queens and all that kind of stuff. So we're still under that system. So it's a good thing to understand what exactly it is. Here we go. God is at the head of our legal system. I'm not kidding. God. Big guy. God. Because God appoints someone, in this case, England, they appoint you, Bob. You rule this area. Okay? You're in charge. After you, your family's in charge. You have all complete total power of that area. Yep. That's how that works. So the only person above the crown, above the sovereign, is God. So they have complete total power. So, as I keep saying, the crown. It refers to that fancy hair, but actually, in reality, the technical nuts and bolts is there's a whole host of titles. Lord of this, Lord of that, this estate, that estate, King of England, King of Northern Ireland, King of Scotland, King of Canada. Yes, it's a real title. So it's those summation of all those titles and estates and lands and wealth and that kind of stuff which pass on from one sovereign to the next. When one, as it says, the king never dies, because as soon as the sovereign dies, immediately, whereas the crown prince or crown princess, whatever, the person designated next in line, they're automatically the king, even before the coronation. Boom, that's it. So the crown is eternal, that fancy hat. The sovereign rules only until their death. So, because God appoints the crown, right? Crown to rule. So the crown, sovereign. I'm not using this is not against anything against the king himself or his family. I certainly don't want any harm to come to them. I certainly not even challenging the institution of the royal family. I'm just saying Canada needs responsible government. Canada needs to have the people as the ultimate power in our country, not to be the bottom of the totem pole in the crown's dominion. And this is probably going to get me in a lot of trouble, but at this point, I don't care. It needs to change, and someone needs to stand up and be the point man. I'll take point. So, getting back to this, the crown then has all the power, but they have other things to do, so they delegate some of their power to 4 main areas. 1, the government, to make laws. You, government, go make laws. And so we have elections and prime ministers and ministers and so forth. They do the nuts and bolts of passing laws. But again, the crown needs to make sure, the sovereign needs to make sure, do they like that? Do they approve of that? Because they don't want to they want to make sure to protect their power, their rule, ultimately. That's the most important thing to them. Well, now we need, since we have laws, a government to make laws, well, we need police to enforce those laws and to keep order, right? No, you can't, no littering, stay on the sidewalk, etc., etc., etc. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. Now we have courts to interpret laws, to judge the accused, and to ensure that everyone under the crown obeys the law. Literally, our legal system is rules for thee, not for me. I'm not kidding, from the perspective of the crown. Then, of course, we need the military to protect the nation and protect the government and, most importantly, the power and rule of the crown. That's what they're there for. All of those under the crown that I just mentioned, government, police, military, courts, they are there, they are underneath the crown, subservient to the crown. They answer to the crown. They have no power over the crown. The crown is legally above the law. The king, who is the current sovereign, could literally walk down, could really shoot anyone in the middle of Piccadilly Circus, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. He cannot be charged with a crime because he is above the law. Because the courts have no authority over the crown, because the crown is the one who gives them authority. They get their power and authority from the crown. So the person wearing the crown is their boss. As an employee, can you fire your boss? No. Can you sanction your boss? No. Your boss can fire and sanction you. That's how it works. That's our system. And people will say, oh, typically this and usually that, and it happens this way and it functions this way. I'm not talking about typically or usually. I'm saying what legally is. what the system currently is, because we need to know and understand what the system currently is before we can understand why it has to change. And again, I'm going to get in massive trouble for this, but again, I don't care. So download and save this video, and as I'm going to say later, do reaction videos. Share it, whatever. Good or bad, you're a person. You deserve to be heard. So, again, the reason why all laws need royal assent is the fact that all laws must be made by the crown, because the crown has all power. So, does it follow? So it also follows the fact that, and it's been said, what started me on this path was I saw a documentary which was about a day in the life of the Queen Elizabeth. Okay, she, was for a ride, and she likes Balmoral Castle, and she'll likes big ships and this and that, and her dogs and so forth. And then, oh, by the way, now and again there's this bit of legislature, housekeeping something that needs to be done. So just sign this. Okay, she signs it. It becomes law. It hasn't passed House of Commons or the Lords or the House of Lords. Nothing. Just sign it. It's law. I'm sorry. What? The sovereign can make any law they want at any time for any of their realms. They have power to do that. They do not need permission of House of Commons, the Senate here in Canada, or anywhere in the Commonwealth, anywhere that they are the sovereign, anywhere that they are the head of state. They have complete and total power. All government, all legal power, all courts answer to them, all police swear allegiance to them, all military swear allegiance to them, and their families are, their blood relatives of the crown, of the sovereign, is always the supreme head of each and every military unit, and the sovereign is the supreme uniformed officer, not a politician, the commander-in-chief of all our military forces throughout the Commonwealth. Our military, now individual servicemen probably would beg to differ, and I respect them for that, but legally they are there to protect the interests of the crown. Protect the crown and the House of Windsor, not us. They must answer the king, not the country. That's unacceptable for them. As I said, we're told that the crown is a figurehead, that they have no real power, but they're just their tradition, history, whatever, and they function as a figurehead, but they're not a figurehead. All power rests within the crown. Now, again, I do not believe that King Charles would abuse his power. He does not strike me as that. I'll go that far. He doesn't strike me as that kind of a man. I think William is a decent guy, but here's the thing. What if someone did? What if someone wanted to make the empire great again? Ooh, ah. They already have all power concentrated on them. They just have to exercise it. And there's nothing anyone could do short of revolution. And that's not what I'm calling for. So because we're structured as a colony answering to the crown, we are essentially ruled by an elected dictator, prime minister, who is propped up and propagated by a lazy dictator, the king. He has all power, but he doesn't do anything. It's, again, good for us, but still unacceptable. That is what our political structure is and why it needs to change. Hopefully you're disgusted by this point. Preferably not by me. Sorry if you have to look at my ugly face this long. But I'm doing this as it is because I want it to be genuine. This is just me talking to you. I'm not going to edit. As I said, one pass, one go, and then upload. Because I learned that from, well, the ninja. The economic ninja. Again, I have nothing to do with him. No connection whatsoever, of course. I'm just saying I watch him and I respect the fact that he just gets up there, does his video, and that's it. The second thing that needs to change is our monetary system. And the fact we have to understand, we all understand the fact that money, how much you earn and how much you have dictates a massive amount about your lifestyle and the kind of life that you're going to have. And is also a way to control you. Well, what is money? Money itself is something which is durable, portable, divisible, uniform, and a store of value. Think, again, bills, coins. Now, technically, that's currency because the difference is between currency and money is a store of value. How do we know that our current, like the Canadian dollar, the current dollars is not money? Is because it is not a store of value. How do we know that? Because of inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the measuring of the loss of the purchasing power of your currency, meaning your dollars will buy less stuff next week, next month, next year, next 10 years. They'll steadily go down in value. Why is that? Because they're always steadily being more created of it. We'll get to that in a bit. But let's go to the history of money again, briefly. Money used to be gold and silver in lumps. And then somebody figured out how to make coins. Great. Now we can actually make change. And it's durable because it's metal. And it's, it's certain set amount. And it's certain thingy is worth a certain amount. Great. You can make change. It's uniform in size. And it's held its value. That's because if you go back 120 years ago, shaving a haircut, 2 bits, which is 25 cents. Why is that? Because there used to be a 1/8 coin, which is 12.5 cents. And that was 1 bit. There you go. But how could somebody make a living giving you a shave and a haircut for 25 cents? Because their money had more value. It was worth more then than it is now. We are now at about 4 cents or less of what the original dollar was back in the day. It's steadily decreased. We're at a point where they need to reset and go into a different currency, which is CBDCs, and that's what they want because they want even more control, even more power. That's something else. We're going to try not to touch on that, but look it up yourself. So how did paper bills come into this? Well, we had coins. Silver was kept into coins, and now bills were issued by a specific branch, not just, for example, TD Bank, but the Main Street branch of TD Bank would issue. That's why the bills did have serial numbers on them, because that exact bill, that exact serial number, was issued by that bank. And you turn that bill in, put that on the counter and say, "I'd like my coin, please." And they would give you that gold coin, whoever bore that note. That way you can have the actual coin safely in the bank, being held safe, but you could then carry the bills around, and it was easier, more convenient, and less risky way to do it. That's why they did it. But what happened was that World War I broke out, and wars are expensive. And so they needed more money. So what they said was, okay, you can't turn in your dollars anymore for coin. Governments could still do this. But they said, nope, you can't do that. So war effort helped with the war, rah, rah, rah. So, but what they did was they started printing more bills than there was gold. Because we used to be 1-to-1 ratio. Again, that one bill that I had, I could put that down in that branch and I would get that gold coin. There was no 2 or 5 or 10 bills with a claim on that gold coin. It was the one. And that was why the money was worth more. And so prices were lower and inflation was much, much lower because your money had more value. The more of something, the less that thing is worth. So the more dollars there are, the less each dollar is worth. It's just supply and demand. And that works on money too. I can use money and currency interchangeably because that's what people understand them to be. So when World War II broke out, America was the manufacturing heart and hub for the Allies. And they did not want to get paid in francs or pounds. They didn't want bills. They wanted gold. So gold was going east across the Atlantic towards the United States as bombs and bullets and tanks and planes and so forth was going westward. And so by the end of the war, the U.S. had most of the gold in reserves. This was a problem. Nobody's currency had any gold to back it. And at that point, back then, that was what backed your currency. Your currency had to be backed by gold. So you had a problem. So they said, okay, this wonderful idea, we'll call it Bretton Woods, because I think it was where they put it. Anyway, where they started anyways, what it was the U.S. would back their currency by gold, and kept held in Fort Knox, so secure, no one has been in there in decades. Oh yes, still very secure. Trust us, the gold's there. Yep, it's there. You don't need to look, we have a word. So they would back their currency, the U.S. dollar, by gold, and other nations would back their currencies by the U.S. dollar. They would take this, they literally have vaults of bills, dollar bills, because then your currency is backed by the U.S. dollar is backed by the gold, so therefore your currency is also backed by gold. Isn't this wonderful? Problem is the U.S. abused this by keep printing more money and devaluing their currency. And people are going, countries are going, we know what's going on. We know you're doing this. And there's been a few instances where warships have been sent over saying, dude, we want our gold back. And they said, yeah, no problem. It'll just take us about 7 years. What? It should be there in that vault. Go get it. I'll fill out the paperwork as you're doing that. So it came to, so they forced this issue, and so more countries were getting their gold back, and it got to a point where August 15th, 1971, a date that would live in infamy. Richard Nixon, again, he had no choice. That was when he stopped other countries' ability to turn in their dollars for gold at a certain value under Bretton Woods. It was a temporary measure, which is still in place to this day. So essentially that severed any tie of gold or silver to currency. Gold is no longer backing any currency. We just had backed by nothing. So what do we have now? We are in a debt-based fiat currency banking system. What does that mean? Our currency is backed by nothing. It is created by debt in the commercial banking system. When you pull out, when you get a loan, when you swipe that stripe on that card, any time you pull out a loan, currency is created. But debt is also created of an equal amount. Matter, antimatter. Currency is the matter which is created. Debt is the antimatter. When they meet, they're destroyed. So what that means is when you pay make a payment on your loan, credit cards or whatever, the principal portion of that payment destroys that equal amount of debt, but the interest stays in the system. Now, since currency is created out of thin air, when debt is created, but debt must be paid back with interest, how can you pay off all the debt? The answer is you can't. You need to keep creating more debt to keep creating more currency to pay on the old debt. It's a Ponzi scheme. It keeps going. You have to keep it going. Over 97% of currency is created in the commercial banking system through debt. Bills are almost nothing. This whole system is inflationary by its very nature, and it steals the wealth, and that wealth is the goods and services that the average person creates. That is wealth. Okay, fine. You work for a company, and you say, I'm going to give my time and my skills to you, company. We're going to do something. Great. That thing of value that you made, whatever it is, through your job, the company takes that and monetizes that. Great. Okay. That's called capitalism. Great. The problem is, where this falls apart, is the fact the money that the company is earning and paying you with is worth less and less and less. And they can only charge what the, quote, market will bear. They can't sit there and say, look, I don't care. I need $100 for that cup of coffee for it to work. I don't care. That's what I'm going to charge. And they have the right to charge $100 for a cup of coffee. But the problem is the market has a right to say, no, I'll give you $5. And so if you don't lower your price as a business, you'll go out of business because no one will be buying your coffee in this instance. That is, so all of us end up working for less and less and less over time. We know this, which is why if you don't get a cost of living increase, and that's even by the CPI, the government statistics, which of course are wrong by nature because they don't want people to understand how badly they're being screwed, but yet you as a person, you know in your heart, in your gut, you know that you're being screwed and how badly you're being screwed. It steals wealth from the masses, right? And transfers it to those who are closest towards being created, the banks, the government, and the super rich. The so rich we're not supposed to talk about them. And again, inflation is a measure of the loss of your purchasing power. It's not to be celebrated. It should not be kept down to 2%. It was supposed to be never get above 2%. And even that measuring of inflation is incorrect. You can go to the grocery store, and if you know what something cost last year and it's costing you double now, that's not 2%, 6% inflation. That's 100% inflation. I mean, please. But currencies continue to lose their purchasing power because of the ever increasing supply of it. They're printing more of it. I mean, money, how the government makes money is they issue a bond. Okay, that bond, like in Canada, they issue a bond, they hand that bond to the Bank of Canada, which is their agent to sell. They sell that bond, and during the cough cough, what was happening was the government of Canada was issuing bonds in great numbers, handing them to the banks, to the Bank of Canada, and they turned around and sold those bonds to the banks, which would buy them with your dollars, right? Your deposits, because they can play with 100% of it, and then they even get double. It's kind of weird what they can do, but they play with your money. There's no money in the banks. They buy bonds, they buy stocks, they do all kinds of stuff. And the loans are handed out by that you creating the loan when you buy it, when you get a loan. That's how currency is created. So Bank of Canada sold the bonds to the banks, the primary dealers. They turned around, waited a day or two, and sold them back to the Bank of Canada. Well, what did the Bank of Canada use to buy the bonds with? Bank reserves. What are those? It's a weird kind of quasi-currency. It's currency, but it's never intended to leave the banking system. Where did it come from? Back in the day when we still had bills, dollar bills, people were always using cash. They would go cash or check, get the cash. That's why you use cashing a check. You go, here's the check, give you the cash, you get the dollar bills, and you go spend your bills. Well, they were, at the end of the day, they were having not enough bills in the vault, so they needed something to have as value. So the bank, in desperation, the central bank said, here, hold this stuff. It's like currency. You can trade it with us and with other banks. That's it. That's what a bank reserve is. And they created those out of thin air, handed them to the banks to buy back those bonds and put it on their balance sheet. So that's how it worked. So that's how they don't care about balancing the budget. The only time they balance the budget is when in an election year. And then as soon as they get elected again, boom, spend like drunken sailors, because they know I can just float more bonds and the debt keeps on going, and who cares, because I just keep creating. What the problem is that eventually, there's been a few instances, and everyone likes to point to Greece, but they just got caught. Is eventually the markets say, no, we don't think you're ever be able to pay this back. You can't handle this. We're not loaning you any money. So since bonds are, you the issuer of the bond, you don't get to dictate what the interest rate is. The market does. The bond market does, which is 4 times larger than the stock market. Because investors, I got my money, and I will loan this money to you for this period of time, but I'm going to want the expectation of inflation, which means I'm going to want to make sure that I have the same purchasing power when this is done, and you pay me back in, the different 1 month, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. And I'm going to want to get a bit of a profit. So that's why they say, no, I'm going to want 5%, 10%, whatever. And the government can say no, but of course, if no one's going to buy your bond for the price you want, you're going to have to up that price, the interest rate. So eventually it gets to a point where the investors say, I'm just not going to loan it to you, so I'm going to give you're going to give me 50%, 100%, something insane. And so then all of a sudden you can't borrow anymore. And then imagine if tomorrow the government of Canada could not borrow any more money. That's it. Done. Now what? Now all of a sudden austerity like you've never seen before, because now the fund train stops. So we are here to, well, we know what's going on, and that's unacceptable, because I believe in, here's what I believe in. I believe that each and every person deserves to not just survive, but thrive. And to do that, you need to be more in control of yourself and your own financial situation. To do that, you need to have money which actually holds its value. So that even if you're not working for more, your dollars will buy more, will buy the same amount of stuff today, next week, next month, next year, so that you can get ahead. And we need people to get out of debt. We need to get rid of that. Get to that in a moment. I believe in, as I said, smaller government through smaller demand, meaning that people should be able to be more self-reliant, self-sufficient, so they will need less social programs. Do we need to help? Help the those who actually need help? Absolutely. Are there those in our society who need assistance? Fine, great. Let's do that. Let's help them. No problem. If someone genuinely needs, great. But people shouldn't be living on debt. We don't need a school lunch program. What we need is for parents to be making enough money so that they can send their kids to school with a lunch. That's what we need. That's the problem. It's not, oh, we need big government to come out again with a big program. Why can't one person, one parent decide, if they want to, if they choose to stay home and raise the children? What's wrong with that? Why can't one person make enough for one family member to do that? What's wrong with that? Why can't we do that? We do that. We get people to need charities and social assistance less. People can actually then grow their wealth. How horrible. Do things like invest. Grow their wealth, investing, buying bonds, buying savings, rather than just simply trying to just eke out a living so they can just exist, and hoping they have enough to exist after they're no longer old enough to work. Yet we still have seniors who should be retiring, still working various places because they need the money to live. That's unacceptable. We need people to actually thrive, not just survive. If we do that, then we will have an economy, a roaring economy, because people will have more money. They'll have more discretionary income. They'll actually be able to go and buy things if they want to, not just exist. That's where we need to get to. That's what I want. That's what I'm working for. Now, part of the way is, again, I'll hint at my plan. But again, I have devised a way to get rid of all debt. Make it go away without confiscation, without default. Everyone gets paid. Everything gets paid. And I originally thought we'll just do this for governments, but then I thought, if we're doing a great reset, why don't we do a great Canadian reset where we don't leave anyone behind? Why not use the same trick to make everyone's debt go away? All governments, all levels, all corporations, all businesses, all charities, all people, except for people named Richard, because you're all dicks. Kidding. Gross sense of humor. Everyone. Gross. Seriously. So, I have figured this out. I know how to do it. I will share that with the premiers at that meeting. And I just want to say, imagine the power of the economy that would be released if every government, every business, every person was totally debt-free at the same time, and that their money was actual money, actually held value. Imagine that. Be an absolute explosion of economic prosperity. And that's without stimulus. Go figure. I also want actual democracy. A government that answers to the people, not a fancy hat. And where the people are the supreme power in our country. Not that the fancy hat is the supreme power in their dominion. If we fix these things, get rid of debt, reform the government to be actually democratic, and we'll put the people, the supreme top, again, capitalism, old school free market capitalism, actual democracy, not communism, not socialism, not that garbage. Make that very clear. Then we will fix so many problems, so many problems within our society. Now, where do we go from here? I've been rambling for about an hour. Sorry about that. Please share this video. Please, if you got this way through, thank you. Spread the word on social media. I'm no good at creating a buzz. I'm no good at that. I mean, do a reaction video if you want. Call me nuts if you want. You're a person. You deserve to be heard. And you deserve to be heard and not be afraid of, if I say the wrong thing, I might be convicted of wrongthink. Of any number of whatever. You've said the wrong thing. You think the wrong thing. Oh, no. I need to get the attention of all the premiers. So first and foremost, every single premier across the country needs to watch this video. I need a meeting. I have the plan. I have a report. I put it forward. I've tried to get the attention of premiers in other ways, but as I said, what they told me, what one particular premier's office told me was that if I got the report to them. It doesn't matter how I marked it, Premier's eyes only. They would open it, they would read it, the staffers, and they would then decide what to do with it and give a summary. And I'm going, that's not good enough because it puts me at risk. I mean, this video puts me at risk as well, but at this point, I don't care. At least the message is out. And anything happens to me, I'll make sure that report goes public. And then what they don't want will happen anyways. This needs to happen. I will share the details of my plan. I'll give them a copy of that report at that meeting. I just want to have that meeting, closed door, because, well, that's the nature of what it has to be. And I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this for my glory. Not doing this for my to enrich my wealth, which is why I'm not asking you to go to this place and donate here, donate there. I'm not asking for that. I mean, I might make a couple of bucks on the views. I don't know how it works. I'll sign up for that because if that'll help me, great. But I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm not doing this for my glory. I'm doing this as service to the country. And my plan, if enacted, would also benefit the United States. Because why not? Because part of my plan involves, well, could spur the Americans to look to improve their own system. Now, again, Canada is its own country, or dominion, fine, but we are our own place. We have followed a different path. We are separate. We're distinct. We're not Americans. Americans are not us. Not good, not bad, just is. We're different. We deserve to be our own country. Our own country. Not join the States, not join anyone else. Our own country, not the Crown's dominion. So, as I said, if you want to reach out to me, great. Feel free. I will put this up on both YouTube and both X and leave a link between the two, and we shall see what happens. But if you could share the video, like it, get the word out there, and most importantly, I need that meeting with the premiers, all of them, to fix the country. We can do this. We should do this. We must do this. Thank you for your time.